Good afternoon and good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Ambassadorial Wing and another installment of the Council of One's Babylon 5 review. And thank you all for your patience as my computer is finishing its update. And I hope you all have had a very pleasant week, and we're at the start of a brand new weekend and a time to rest, a time to reflect, and a time to just take a break from the humdrum routine of our everyday lives. And glad to have you all here. And once again, we have a nearly full council to break down this episode. And Fiona, Mountains of Elysium, Lord Koj, Zodrider, is good to see you all, and appreciate you being here as always. So, and today we are breaking down the episode A Tragedy of Telepaths. So, we're not going to stand on a bunch of ceremony here. Y'all know the routine. Y'all know what you need to do. So, hit that subscribe button, share this out, hit that like, hit that notification bell, all those things. So, with that being said, my friends, my fellow council members, let's dig into A Tragedy of Telepaths.
AKA Bestering Part 2, the unfortunate sequel.
Yes, indeed. So, where would y'all like to begin with this episode? I open the floor. Let's dig in.
Does poor Lockley have to say, I told you so? Does Lockley have to keep saying that? I told you so? Oh no.
Well, speaking of Lockley, this is like her first episode where it's like she is the Sheridan or Sinclair of the episode, because usually the leaders or whoever's in charge of the station for an episode, sometimes we hear like that Jean-Luc Picard captain's log, da 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 da, where we hear their narration. I like that. That's the first time we're seeing her, like, you know, in the seat that she belongs in. And we're how many episodes in? We're finally getting this. So it's kind of cool. This is like a Lockley episode.
Isn't this like episode 10 or 11?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, ultimately, that's why I'm glad that Lockley ends up getting a little bit more to do in some of the movies, right, and also the Lost Tales as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Yep. Because interesting character. It's just that they only had so much time for everybody.
Very true. Well, you know, honestly, we've had some background on Lockley, and now we're really seeing how she handles things in the command capacity. And of course, the other side of this episode, we also have Sheridan and Delenn having to deal with another brush fire with the Interstellar Alliance. And nobody's having a good time of this, like, at all. So, I mean, Lockley is in a hell of a fix because she's having to deal with Byron and his bunch and the group that got out, that jumped ship and everything, and is running around the station causing all sorts of shenanigans. And in Sheridan and Delenn's case, they're having to deal, like I said, with another brush fire because somebody is attacking all the League worlds. Of course, we all know who is attacking the League worlds. It is, of course, the Centauri on behalf of the at the behest of the Drakh, or at the coercion of the Drakh, if you prefer. And it's just everything's a mess right now. So,
because you see it, the Centauri aren't really willing participants, because even their citizens are confused of like, why are they doing this? What?
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, the interesting thing is, you know, I just rewatched this episode just a little while ago and everything to refresh my memory, because I had watched it like last week. I was like, I probably need to rewatch it just a second time just to make sure I'm caught up on everything. And the Centauri are really getting into are going to be in quite a jam here in a few episodes, and this is the build up to everything going to hell for one of the major founders of the Interstellar Alliance, because the Centauri were a backbone member of the ISA, and now their military is being used to beat up the other member worlds of the Interstellar Alliance as well. And, to look at this episode is like, well, they're kind of laying the groundwork for what's going to happen to the Centauri eventually. Because whereas Sheridan and Delenn used the White Star Fleet to kind of coerce the Berkiri and the Drazi and the Gaiam to not attack each other, essentially in a few episodes' time, that's essentially is what's going to happen to the Centauri exactly, is that the Centauri are going to get smacked down by the ISA. And you hate to see it because the Centauri are not bad people. They've just had a lot of bad leadership.
And in that case, the leadership is not even the true driver. They're the backseat driver. Keepers.
Mm-hmm. Essentially. And shout out to the chat. Price is Right reviews. Price, always good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you popping in this afternoon. So, but everybody, the league members are like, this is what we signed up for. Actually, yes, this is precisely what you signed up for. And you have that one Drazi ambassador going, every great organization and everything will eventually falls down, and it all starts with one slip up. And he's like, Sheridan, this is yours. And I'm like, dude, just a few episodes ago, you were being bullies to a species of aliens on the border of your own space. So you're being somewhat of a hypocrite right here.
Totally, man.
You are being Go ahead,
I think I know why they did it, though. There's like, oh wait, somebody else to blame. Quick, pay attention to what the Centauri are doing wrong. Because we can't be the only ones with eggs on our face. See, what they're doing is worse. Oi.
Yeah, look at them. Don't look at me.
Yeah, the Drazi are like under the blue check marks on Twitter, blaming everyone but themselves.
Yes,
Facts.
essentially.
Facts.
Yeah, it's essentially the Drazi are acting like a bunch of teenagers going, well, it's not my fault. He started it. I'm like, no.
And now Sheridan's going to have to finish it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to have to go be the dad and punish the kids for when they misbehave. And, the funny thing is, at the end of all this, it comes down to them being all suckered, essentially. It comes down to them. It comes down to Sheridan saying, y'all are being messed with by somebody else. And y'all are being damn dumb enough not to realize what exactly is going on here. And that's Sheridan's a lot more tolerant than I would be. Because honestly, if I had to deal with the Drazi and the Berkiri and the Gaiam, or at least in this case the Drazi, because the Berkiri aren't being that big of a pain in the neck, nor are the Gaiam, but the Drazi are being a bunch of petulant, infantile teenagers.
You know what's sad? Just that I'm thinking about it, sorry. But Delenn actually kind of knows how it feels when a whole race goes mad together. So she's really concerned about what the Centauri are doing, and she's wondering why. It's like, oh boy.
Well, and the really, like, as I was saying, if I was in Sheridan's place, I'd be looking at that Drazi ambassador and saying, excuse me? Y'all even can't keep things straight in your own borders, and y'all are pulling all sorts of shenanigans inside your own borders. And not too long ago, you all decided to pick on a species of aliens that was just on the border of your space. And you just kind of turned a blind eye. So now you're waggling your finger at me. I'm like, I don't think so, Junior. You're as just neck deep in your own stupidity as you're trying to paint everybody else to be. We're out here trying to keep the peace, and all you're trying to do is be the new big dog on the block. Well, guess what? You're not. You're not. You're not the new big dog. You're still a little puppy.
Oh man, but what sucks is Londo kind of helped set up everything to where the Centauri could be used as the cat's paw by the Drock, even if he didn't mean to. Because he thought he was doing something great by getting rid of Morden and blowing up the island. And in the short term, that worked out fine. But in the long term, it's like the Drock basically cozied up to them rather than forming their own warped interstellar alliance with like the Stribe and all the other ones that are like on the fringes. They went right for the jugular.
Well, unfortunately, the Drock learned their lessons far too well from the Shadows. Unfortunately, even though the Shadows' lessons were somewhat misguided, and it's something that Sheridan said back in, I think, season 4, or at the end of season 4, when he said we'll be dealing with the legacy of the Shadows, the Shadow War, for a long time to come. And well, he's not wrong, because everybody kind of stepped on the toes of the Drock during those last few days and weeks of the Shadow War. And everybody's going to have to pay the piper, even though technically everybody else was not in the wrong for what they did and everything in driving the Shadows out. And the first and the Vorlons and the rest of the first ones collectively. The Drock are just kind of pissy because the Big Day Shadows went away and didn't leave them with. Well, they felt like they owed the Shadows something. They have some sort of allegiance to them, even though you think about it, if the Shadows are truly as reformed as we think they are, they're going to look at the Drock and go, guys, yeah, no, don't do that. That's no, don't do that. We don't want you to, we don't want you to take on some sort of vendetta, because all it's going to do is get your own asses kicked. Look what happened to us. Granted, it was all through words and not through military force per se. But still, the Shadows went away.
In a way, this episode, they're dealing with the legacy of both the Shadows and the Vorlons all at once, and it's getting messy.
That's true. That's very true.
It's getting messy, man. Which kind of cat's paw do you want today? Byron and his people from like, oh, you owe us because Vorlons, or the poor Centauri, who most of the average civilians are like, oh, what's going on here? Wait, did we just dispose of one mad emperor to get somebody else as equally as insane? What? Because you'll get a little bit more of the civilian side of things from the average Centauri, like in the Centauri Prime trilogy. Because, man, the Drock were running more than just, Londo into the ground. They were doing severe mental ops through a lot of cat's paws that they, like the one Drula guy, I think, they were using him a lot in the books to antagonize the Centauri population into resenting the Interstellar Alliance, especially after what happens in the next couple episodes.
Yeah,
it's like this huge episode here is like setting things in motion for the things that are going to happen after season 5. We see all the seeds placing in here, kind of like we saw the seeds in season 1 for the next 4 years afterwards. That's going to be this episode feels like really key to all those things that are being planted for what's going to come. That's expanded on later, of course, in the books and other stuff. But yeah,
like half of season 5 felt like it was a precursor to set up Crusade, essentially.
Yeah. About to say the same thing, and if Crusade had gotten the same, I suppose, any love at all, it could have been as good, if not better, than Babylon 5, because there was some fantastic characters, fantastic concepts, and a lot of the characters from B5 who were bit parts here became much bigger, like Lockley.
True.
Yep, and her and Dr. Franklin and even Lita's role in that would have been expanded because they were saying Lita and Jakar would have been in there too, along with Lanier, Doc Franklin, Walkley. Taking rotating turns doing guest parts in over the various seasons. So
that would have been so cool. And at the time they had that because everyone was still around, more or less.
Lita, was it our Patricia Talman turned it down because they were going to kill off her character on screen in Crusade, and she said no, that she felt her character deserved better.
Oh, snap.
Well, yeah, because her and Lanier fell during the Telepath Civil War.
Yep. Yeah, it's in there.
Yep.
I didn't know they were going to do it in Crusade. What?
Well, it probably would have shown it in flashbacks through that one character, the Lieutenant
Madison.
Madison. Yeah. So in a way, there's interesting things like with Tragedy of Telepaths was setting up quite a few different offshoot stories that would have probably been resolved in Crusade had they been given time. Probably we even would have seen Bester go down on screen, but you'll have to live vicariously with that through the books.
Yep, and we have such a vivid imagination; it's quite fruitful and satisfying. Another cool thing about this episode, though, is we see what's going on with the Narn because we find Natoth, the original actress from season 1 of Natoth, and
Caitlin Brown.
Yes, and when we go over what happened, and what happened with Narn, that flashback, they actually went. I appreciate that they went to the lengths of showing us on Narn what happened, even though obviously we only see like what we can with special effects and CGI that they had available at the time. But I appreciate the effort of showing that, and then segueing to Londo remembering it too, and we get to see those shots again in the season 5 touched up type of way. But I like the segue when she said, what was it? She said there's no words for it. It was like the universe ganged up on him and just told him to die. And while she's saying that, he's looking back to how he was looking down on surprisingly horror at the time. That was like season 2, sorry, of the mass drivers sending the asteroids and meteorites onto the planet while she's saying die, because he was seeing that and he's seeing death. It's just a very pivotal moment that Londo knows he can never take back, and it's changed so many lives. And I like that we get that moment here because it's something to definitely reflect on, because season 5 has a lot of reflections.
It does. And go ahead, Fiona.
I'm just saying this episode is also Bester at peak smug, I would say.
Peak smug?
Yes.
I can see that. Oh, man.
Yeah, you just know he drives an electric car.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, Elysium, really?
Couldn't help it, sorry.
It's okay, bud. It's all right. So,
because he relished saying to the command staff that he has often been at odds with, like, see, I told you so. You should have let me take the Telepaths home, but you didn't. Mm-hmm. Oh my! What family doesn't have its problems? Yeah, homicidal problems, Bester.
It's like Locklewood has a "I told you so," and now so does Bester have an "I told you so" in his sick way.
Well, to kind of transition to the telepath situation on B5, it all starts with Sheridan, unfortunately. He was the one that said, yeah, sure, we'll let you set up a colony here. But unfortunately, I think if he had time to really vet the telepaths and vet Byron himself, he would have been like, yeah, no, you're going to have to find someplace else to live. This isn't going to work out. Well, let's be honest here. I think if Sheridan had done what I had just suggested, there was no way in hell those telepaths would have been within 1,000 leagues or light years of that station. They would have had to just keep looking. And that's the other crazy thing too. And I don't know if this would have been viable per se, but they could have put them on Epsilon 3. It's a Class M planet, as I understand it. Is it not?
And if they do create a culture there, when Epsilon 3 needs a new person to
it does funny
pilot the
things.
machine, they have a great selection of people to pick from.
Well, it does funny things.
Precisely.
You have telepathic abilities too, because Ivanova showcased that, and she was just a latent one.
Right?
Yeah.
She was able to utilize it more.
So, why? That's the thing that boggles me. They're in orbit around a freaking planet, a Class M planet. Now, granted, they may have had to send down supplies to them and maybe help them get up on their feet with, like, housing or whatever. But it's a perfectly good world. It doesn't necessarily belong to anybody. They could have gotten a hold of Drawl. Delenn could have gone down there
And
and
Drawl
said, hey,
could have kept other people off the planet.
Exactly.
And I don't know if Drawl was.
Delenn, I hate to say this about JMS because he is such a good writer. Why didn't he think about this?
Well,
Epsilon
here's the thing.
3
I was wondering if
he was fighting with the studio. No-go. That's why he didn't think about it.
Well, that's entirely possible. Hey, Zod, it's good to hear from you.
Yeah, well, it's true. He was fighting with the studio. I mean,
well, because him and TNT were having problems even before Crusade got off the ground.
Yep.
Here's okay. All right. I'm not gonna pick on JMS because we all know how good of a writer he is. So, but here's what I will say. Looking at this from the perspective of the characters in the show, not so much the behind the scenes stuff of the production of the show. All Sheridan and Delenn had to go and say, the telepaths want their own world. We're in orbit around a world is essentially uninhabited. Hey, Delenn, do you think you could get a hold of Drawl and see if he would be okay with us setting up a colony of telepaths down there, as long as we keep them out of the base, as long as we get the telepaths to agree to stay out of the base? Yeah, John.
That would be the most. When you think about it, that would be the most brilliant idea, because that keeps the telepaths in their own lane and essentially allows Drawl to look over them, almost to make sure to keep everything preserved, to keep it. I mean, it's really a no-brainer when you think about it, in all honesty.
I mean, if I had to really guess, it's because they wanted to keep some sort of conflict going.
Yeah,
for the story beats, unfortunately. So
they had enough story beats as it was. They had the Drock to deal with. They didn't need the telepaths too.
I know, but it's just it seems like part of it was they didn't quite give the characters the idiot ball, but it was more just like hindsight of like to have like some sort of internal drama going on.
But I'm looking, we don't normally do this here, but I'm just looking at this. I'm saying there is a solution literally underneath their collective noses. Epsilon 3. Now, here's the thing. As I said, we're assuming that Epsilon 3 is a Class M world. I'm sure it says somewhere in a wiki or a web page or something, Epsilon 3 for Babylon 5 is a Class M world. It can support life. Now, they may have had to maybe terraform it a little bit or set up some sort of vegetation and wildlife or whatever for the telepaths. Or they could have just had it where they were getting supply shipments and they supplied them with housing. It's doable.
But there's also another precedent. Delenn did send off that young lady human to Membar to serve.
Yeah, I know, and that's what drives me freaking nuts here. As a person who likes to be a problem solver, this solves the problem of the telepaths. Okay, we don't want to send them to Membar because that won't give them their own home world. The telepaths want a home world of their own.
Yep.
Epsilon 3's right there.
Yes.
I mean, heck, Drawl probably could put them in a domed off area where their stuff could, because apparently I got the sense that the machine could also generate other things, because Zathras and Zathras and all the other Zathras's were also living there.
It's true, but okay, one thing I will give as maybe a leeway is that I do remember Drawl saying that no one may have access except a specific few, and I don't know if they're still protecting the secrets of Epsilon 3, but if you have telepaths running around on it, those secrets may be compromised. That's the only logical reason I could see it being non-inhabitable according to Drawl and the Great Machine rules. I think I can't remember that was said before, but I do think that if they kept their cool, they could have found a free world open to move in if they just gave us some time, because we also had the Marcab and all that.
It's a big galaxy.
They've just been patient.
It is.
Yeah, and they're growing because they just started the Interstellar Alliance. So if being familiar with Star Wars, that could be a big realtor of planets.
Look, every star is potentially a Class M world that the freaking telepaths could have lived on. Now, if you want to bump on the Marcab world, okay, great. I'm sure they wouldn't care. I mean, obviously that virus was dead by then. It wasn't going to hit. It wouldn't have harmed the telepaths. So, biggity bobbity bam.
Found a cure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yes, they did. And the telepaths did get that stick. Ouchie.
And greetings to the chat, Angar Vermillion. Good to meet you. I assume you're a compatriot of our resident lady council member. So good to see you.
Yes,
and
he does his own kinds of uplifting space opera.
Awesome.
In fact, I can link it if you want me to.
Yes, well, you've got a wrench, don't you? Use it.
There we go. But I always ask for permission. There we go.
You don't have to, and but it just, honestly, yeah. Bester but you know what? This is one time I'm going to say it. Bester was right.
Hashtag Bester was right.
This is the one time I'm going to say it, and this is the one time I don't groan at the fact that Bester is on that station. Because here's the thing. The telepaths are being a pain in the ass. And I don't care. Yes, Elysium, blame Byron. It's all Byron's fault.
Byron is actually a horrible leader.
Yes.
He doesn't. Couldn't. Okay. I'm going to quote a favorite movie of mine. And y'all may or may not get this reference. He couldn't find water if he fell out of a boat. if anybody gets that reference. If you don't,
I don't, but that's just funny.
Oh, but the look on Lockley's face, like she's gonna have the Bloodhound units are coming on the station, and Bester's all like, yes, and then Lockley's like,
no. The quote was, "You couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat." And it's from Dodgeball, a true underdog story.
Yes. That's right.
Byron is. Go ahead, Elysium. No, go ahead.
I wonder, were they refused onto the planet because Drawl took one look? No, tell him I'm washing my hair. I've seen Byron.
Oh, Lord. The ultimate delaying tactic.
There's one problem with that. Except for Delenn. Minbari don't have hair.
I know Minbari don't lie, but to save face for another they will, yes. Zatras wouldn't like them.
That's always true. Some little what's it? I can't think of the word, but there's always some bending rule that they have with the Minbari.
Yes, they do have the idea of penance, because I do remember, was it Lanier, when he was sitting next to that really annoying guy waiting for the flight, and he said,
I will do penance later.
Deadly certainties, yes. And I wonder, Drawl, I will do penance. Zatras, come for a chat.
Oh, man. Actually, now that I think about it, wouldn't it be scary to have a Zathras telepath?
No. No, that would be bad. That would be very, very bad.
That'd be a lot of Zathras in the mind.
So, I don't know. Zatras seemed like a really kind of a character who cared about life in general. So I think a Zatras telepath would not have been a bad thing. It's just he's a very alien being to the other characters.
Well, and here's the other thing too. We don't know how Zathras's race procreates. We don't know if they even have any females.
Well, they might be like the dwarves. They have beards. You know, the reference you hard to tell apart. That Zatras could have been female, and Zatras was also a brother.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, that's just Alicia. Why did you have to put that image in my head? No.
Come on!
No.
Share the love. Share the love. Spread it everywhere.
It could be anything. They could be like, the Drac and Enemy of Mine, where they just pop out of the bellies, or maybe it's like
a pouch?
elf or an orc, where they grow them from the ground. That's why there's so many of them.
I don't think I want. There are some things that are better left.
I'll go with growing them from the ground.
Oh, good. Produced by temporal osmosis.
It's unknown.
They come from a Zathras tree that grows alien persimmons.
It's unknown reproduction. That's what it is.
One of the secrets of Epsilon 3.
Arch. Colin.
Babylon 5. Sexual secrets of Epsilon 3 available now.
In fact, that might be in Crusade, because didn't they have a Pakmara porno playing in the Crusade?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's because you remember when WB wanted Crusade to become.
That was them mocking
Baywatch in space. So yeah,
maybe that's their joke at WB and giving them the finger.
Oh God! Zathras is reproduced by temporal osmosis. That actually makes sense. They time travel and come from different splintering universes, and they find their way to Draw.
No, they do it like Ivan. If I did it with the Lamati.
There you go. They dance around, go in circles, hold hands, and headbang, going yes.
That's the one.
That's as good of an example as any. Honestly, I mean,
I like that.
Because we just don't know.
And
here's the crazy thing. Okay, here's the other thing too. Here is one species that, thank goodness, we don't know how they reproduce, and I don't think I want to know how they reproduce. The Pakmara, because we don't know what they look like underneath those robes. We don't know what the Pakmara genitalia looks like. They could be like hentai overloaded. Think about it. I mean, the Pakmara are basically modeled after the Quarrens. They're squid people, essentially. So it would reason that their genitalia is tentacly as well.
Yeah. No. The fun part I want to think about is, wasn't Natoth pretty in that Centauri dress, and how they got her out of the jail? The ultimate camouflage. Like, you go to Toth, they'll never suspect you're in Centauri clothing. Like at all.
Well, thank God it was Natoth and not Londo.
Oh, good grief.
She did.
Well, go ahead, please, Tim.
No, I think that was one disturbing thing about the episode, how willing that courtesan was to just drop her clothes in front of Jakar and Londo. I was going, if this is so normal, and that treatment of a person, I'm like, oh, well, that's messed up. And the fact that,
well, of course, she may enjoy it. We don't know.
Does anybody else still wonder about what it would have been like if Jakar and Talia had tested what her pleasure threshold was?
She said she didn't have one.
Oh boy!
The unfortunate elevator and other conversations that happened on Babylon 5.
Sure, there's a book somewhere for it.
Oh Zod, why did you have to bring
a Babylon 5 porn parody?
Okay. Well, it's a good thing. I have a title for it.
Specific liaisons. There we go.
But no. I honestly, I don't even think I could do a parody of any kind of X-rated material. Like, no, can't do it. Can't do it. Nope.
And there needs to be some hentai house that does that in anime or something.
Oh Lord!
But no, I did find it really interesting. You get to see more banter from Jakar and Londo with rescuing Natoth, because Jakar was almost to the point like he was in the elevator, arguing with Milari way back when. It's like, you will find a way to free her, or by God, I'm going to tear you in two.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, he said I will burn this palace down and you along with it.
Yeah, but still, yeah, like that's a little bit of the old season 1 and 2 Jakar peeking through. Be like, don't forget, I know how to kick some ass. Yeah, Jakar and Lita did go off together at the end of the series, from what I remember. Actually, there's that short story that explains a little bit of it. Trying to remember which one it was. I probably have it saved on here somewhere.
I would like to read that.
Let's see. Yeah, let's see if I can find the link.
Well, while you're looking for that link, I did want to pause this briefly in the review and bring up some news I did hear that's somewhat disconcerting, but although considering the studio, I'm not terribly surprised. And this is not relatively new news; it's somewhat old news. But I don't know if y'all have heard, but the at least supposedly the reboot of B5 has been put on delay, and I cannot say I am disappointed because I
actually heard somewhere, Ambassador, not to cut you off, but I actually did read somewhere that there's a possibility that after this, the merger and all this stuff happens, that we might end up seeing the Babylon 5 reboot on HBO Max.
Oh,
yeah, because they're even talking about moving a whole bunch of new stuff over to HBO Max too. Even one of my pro wrestling shows might be on HBO Max too.
I'm okay with that. So Zod, thank you for filling me in. I do appreciate that. So no, that's actually, if they're going to give it an HBO Max budget, oh boy, I'm happy.
That'd be good, because streaming services, to my knowledge, have less restrictions than
that's
cable
true.
broadcasting. So this could work out in favor.
Well, and I don't know if any of you follow the series Raised by Wolves, but season 1 was excellent, and I need to catch up. I mean, I really need to catch up on season 2, but from what I saw of season 2, season 2 was very solid. So I will say this: if they're going to be moving the reboot of B5 over to HBO Max, I'm good with that. And Angar, we don't look in things in terms of how woke it is. We just look in terms of quality. And HBO Max, to be perfectly candid, is not woke if you want to use that sort of vernacular. But here we don't use that vernacular. Is it good or is it bad? It's not a woke or unwoke question. So I don't go in for.
Sorry, Ambassador.
No, go ahead, Lisa. You're fine, bud.
I'm wondering if you look at many of the issues, Babylon 5 is, you could actually say, one of the most woke shows there's ever been on.
Thank you.
Because it covered a lot of those issues, but it did it in a way that was respectful to all traditions, both sides, and just made it. JMS addressed these issues. He does have woke elements in it, but he never wants to draw attention, because he said these things should be normal, and it should
exactly. That's what I like, because the thing is that true equality is everyone's equal, not pushing one over the other or taking the attention in one spot and damning the rest.
Exactly.
Whatever definition you want to put that to, it always changes every 5 years, I noticed. But the true equality is just everyone treated equal, honestly, not trying to force some kind of stereotype, either good stereotype or bad stereotype, as the front and center. That's when I think it gets a little dodgy, because then it's more other things tied to it. Just, equality, everyone get the job done. I think Babylon 5 is a good example of how it handles like so many topics.
It was progressive ahead of its time, and it did it
Big time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it followed suit. It followed suit with Star Trek, which was also always very progressive and ahead of its time. So you got to look at it like that. And then again, we have to always also remember that Babylon 5 had the great Harlan Ellison on board as a consultant all the entire series. So that tells you a lot about what Babylon 5 is and where Babylon 5 was headed.
Okay, I finally found that link. It's Genus Loci with the Jakara and Lita in it, but I'll link it in the chat here for everybody. Okay. Because I really wish they'd put more of these on actual real formats, but this is the next best way you can get some of the old stuff.
Oh yeah, just read it. Just read it via ebook on your tablet or your phone, and you're good.
Excellent. Let me get this saved in my tabs.
Thank you. That's actually not that's not the only short story, because they used to have the Babylon 5 magazines that had these short stories in it. Like,
oh my gosh, I remember those.
Yeah, Spectre Time and the Curial Romantic. Like, they got a couple of the more obscure Babylon 5 tie-in titles here. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is the reason why I started these streams a little over 2 years ago now, because B5 has always been a passion of mine. It's been a series I have been a long-time fan of. It's something that me and Mother Ambassador shared, and we were always fans of. And I wanted to do discussions like this on the series because they have always been very enlightening. Whether it's an episode like this or whether it's a really benchmark episode, say like the Parliament of Dreams from season 1. And not to put too fine a point on it and not to stroke anyone's egos, but you all have always had you've always had great insight, you've always had great takes on this, and I think a show that like B5 that was very progressive, very forward thinking for its time, particularly coming out in the mid 90s, was something of a great was a great piece of fiction. And I cannot say that my enthusiasm for the show has ever really diminished, because it hasn't. It's never really left my mind. It's just I didn't have access to it. And now that I have access to it both via HBO Max, but also the fact that I have the complete series on DVD, it's had a long shelf life, and it's had legs in comparison to some other series that have kind of faded into obscurity. And not to be mean when I say this, I think justifiably so, but a show like B5 is truly timeless. Because here we are, several better than a decade or more after the last episode aired on cable, and we've had great discussions about it, and I think we've had a really good discussion today. I know we kind of deviated off the main topic and everything to discuss the fate of the upcoming reboot, but if what Zodwriter is saying is true, and I have no reason not to believe him, and they're going to be putting B5 on HBO Max, and JMS is good with that, I'd say we're in store for some really top-notch storytelling, so long as JMS is at the helm. Because I trust in JMS more than anything else. And if he's not on board with it and he's not willing to go forward with this project, then I would not be as enthusiastic as I am.
I understand. I like the authenticity of the creator telling the story, and not someone else telling someone else's story the way they would think or want to do it, which is never going to be truer to the original intent. Given what may, we've already gone over the details of it, but I prefer the storyteller tell the story that they created. I don't like when other people take over some other people's things because it's never the same. It's always just it's like 10% of what it could be. Only the creator knows like 100% what it is, the creator of the story and such.
Yes.
Well, and if I hear knows what my thing is on the reboot, so I'm probably the lone voice sighing in relief right now.
No. I'm actually not. I'm just more nicer and forgiving. But
So
you're
not.
I'm with
There's
Fiona.
no way you're gonna.
There's
no way you're gonna hate. Fiona's not gonna hate watch.
No, yes. I don't hate watch either. I haven't even seen
that's my whole goal. Like I will always support indies out there that were influenced by the old stuff. That's going to be my modus operandi. I'll push back with some positivity. If mainstream isn't doing what I want it to do, I'm going to push other people that are in my wheelhouse.
Yo, I'm with you there, sister. 100.
Yeah. Oh man. But honestly, I think at this point, any of the providers out there, they're already going to be to me, I just, I have little to no faith that they'll actually put the story above whatever their soapbox they're going to try to do.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Fiona. Even JMS had a soapbox, but he was just better at utilizing it than some other people were.
The JMS of the 90s, yes. The current one on Twitter, I'm a little bit dubious on. But you have to have a counter voice to these sort of things.
Absolutely.
So we shall see.
This is interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, well, guys and gals, I think we're gonna go and start wrapping up here. But any final thoughts on specifically the episode of Tragedy of Telepaths before we do close up? Floor is yours.
Bad. Not giving them their own colony. That's ridiculous.
I like how none of us touched on Byron's death. It's like we're just all right.
It's like, oh yeah, right. He died.
Good riddance to bad rubbish.
That's the how Malari was trying to explain to Dakar why Natoth got left in the prison. Like they don't remember why they won't remember the original order, only that they have to go over there and do X, Y, or Z.
There was no counter order to the
order.
Yeah, BR31, you're right on that one.
Yeah, because those guards were sicked on Natoth to guard her prison when Cartagia was doing stuff, and he wouldn't countermand that order. And she got lost in the shuffle. As you know, the poor regent was already under keeper control, so he's not going to go out of his way to free Natoth.
Unfortunately,
one thing that kind of struck me that they mentioned in previous episodes how expensive Spoo can be. So that may have just been on Babylon 5, and yet they were providing fresh Spoo for Natoth.
That's true.
That's what tells me that I really don't think Natoth is the only prisoner there. I think they have a bunch, and I think they were prepared for that. And I think the Drakh were probably prepared to collect a bunch of prisoners. And then maybe they could interrogate them, find out which one that they could put a keeper on, and then set them out in the future, maybe. But they use the Centauri to do all the dirty work. Because they know how the Centauri work, because again, they have their strict code of the royal palace. If you see anything unusual, you're trained to not look away. You're trained to look away, to not give it attention, because it has to be all perfect. And then they have those strict rules they follow to a T. They have this system that is perfect for the Drakh to work their corruption with. So I think they like the Centauri also for their just because their ways complement how they work, because they just need to control whoever's in charge, because they know the rules and the orders are going to be followed to a T, even into poverty, which is what happens. So the Drakh are just very at home with the Centauri, unfortunately. And a Tragedy of Telepaths, it's like in a way this is like, because they always have a double meaning. This is like a tragedy of Centauri Prime, because they've established how to work peacefully with telepaths, but at the same time they're being telepathically controlled by the Drakh within their system. So the Tragedy of Telepaths kind of overlays in a weird sub theme of what's going on in Centauri Prime, but no one can notice it because everyone's already pre-programmed in some way or form.
Yeah, that's true, and it is unfortunate. So, and yeah, Elysium, I think Fiona also shared this comment. My people are in there, this, and several others who just tried to kill me. But then, what family doesn't have its difficulties? Yeah, that's true.
Mm.
But as I said, Bester was right, and Byron's to blame. So, way to go, Byron. You made Bester right.
Yeah, and what we also learned is, even the prisoners can still enjoy their spoo.
Yeah.
Oh man, and actually, that's how Jakar initially realizes, like, wait, why are they serving this kind of spook? What? It's because that's the initial thread that led him to Natoth, because he was like, wait, why do you have this on hand? You guys normally don't like this.
And he noticed it through Londo's reaction, because to Jakar is like, dang, this is great, you guys have this, and then he realized that Londo's like, oh, how can you eat that? You need to do this to make it taste better. After he realized that's so it's like a combination of that spoo and his relationship with Londo that helped him get on that path to go, wait a second, and then find Natoth. Which I'm so glad. I love Natoth as a character. She's a key character in my fan fiction, so this is very important.
So, anyway. Well, my final thoughts on the episode. Everybody's in for a bumpy ride. And it's not gonna be a fun ride for nobody. It's gonna be very dark, it's gonna be very tragic, it's gonna be a mess. And we're just kind of along for the ride. And I can't think of a better group to have along with me. So, anyways, folks, I think, like I said, we're going to wrap up for the evening, but in the afternoon, depending on where you're living at. And as always, thank you all for tuning in today. Greatly appreciated. And to those of you who will catch us on the replay, I hope you all enjoy the stream as well. Leave your comments with anything we brought up and anything today or anything we might have missed. So, we will, of course, be back next Friday with the episode Phoenix Rising. Our good friend, fellow council member, Mountains of Elysium, will be traveling abroad and everything. So we wish him a very safe and peaceful journey, we hope. And we look forward to having him back in a couple weeks. So, Elysium, on behalf of myself and the rest of the council, we'll miss you, but we will see you on the flip side.
Yes, I'll be zooting on the beach.
Hey, fantastic!
Excellent. So,
sounds amazing.
Do want to let you all know I will be going live tomorrow evening with a brand new Ambassadors Retro review, and we're going to be digging into a topic that I've been kind of sitting on for a little bit now, and I figured this was as good a time as any. And we're going to be jumping back to one of my favorite decades, of course, the 1980s. And this will be the start of a brand new series of streams and videos, everything here on the channel. And we're going to be talking about the evolution of video gaming. And we're going to be talking about the developments of video gaming, particularly in the 1980s, the great video games of that decade, the great platforms that came out during those years, and its impact upon the pop culture landscape of the 1980s. So I will be setting up that link or that stream later this evening, so hope to see you all then. That stream will be an open panel, so I will have the link in the chat, so if you want to join me for that discussion.
What day is this one going to be?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow, what time tomorrow night?
I'm thinking 7:30 ish. So,
me and Zod are like, yay.
So
I don't know. The only problem with that, Code J, is we got Clapback Saturday tomorrow night, so I don't know.
Yeah,
it's only big,
That's true. I have my kid tomorrow, so I may not make any of it. But I'll catch your replay.
Hey, that's fine. So, but anyways, folks, thank you all again for tuning in this afternoon. We greatly appreciate you being here, and we will see you all next week.
And pour one out for Lockley. Pour one out for her. She had a trying day.
Yes, she did.
Hell yeah. I'll have a drink for her.
Yes, she did. So, but anyways, folks, we will see you all next week. Until next week, this is the Council of One saying 3, 2, 1.
Zooty!
Zoot!
Zoot! Yes.
Zooty!
Spoo!
Spoorific.
Zoot.
Fantastic.
Lord.
Zoot.